The very first night when we got to Indonesia, we were in Jakarta. I woke up in the middle of the night to the call to prayer, and I just remember thinking, it was, pitch black and you could be anywhere in the world, but just listening to that call to prayer was the most kind of calming experience. I think it happened 5 times during the day. There was something about it that made me feel calm, I don't know. When you travel somewhere as a tourist, I think you're so used to having a camera out and sort of pointing it at everything. And being in a place where the camera is actually pointed back at you should make us realise a bit more maybe what it is like when we're in a place with our cameras, pointing them at other people.
Thank you. Thank you,
I really liked people taking pictures of me. I thought it was a very easy way to engage with the locals, especially when we couldn't talk to each other with verbal language.
There was a time in the Tsunami Museum where I'll never forget this, and this swarm of teenage boys just like encompassed me, and I honestly remember it was like so scary. I just thought they were going to swallow me up, and I think it was at that point that I started to be a little bit more cautious about who I let take my photograph. And I never felt like unsafe with women and children. In fact, it was almost like a kind of a strange bonding experience to be able to have that kind of awkward moment of shared space.
I felt like I was on display. Like I've never felt like that before.
In Indonesia, they would often refer to foreigners, white people, as Bule. And we had it explained to us that it's more a term of endearment than anything.
Just like some kind of romantic ideal of the West and kind of what we symbolised as these kind of, there's just these different creatures.
While we were in Aceh, we did a tsunami tour, is what it was called, and that involved looking at different sites where boats had been maybe washed ashore and had stayed there since the tsunami. There was a power generating ship that had been washed 5 kilometres inland that we visited, and these sites have become places for tourists to visit. This seems a bit strange to go on a tour of places where there's been a lot of pain, but at the same time I think they help to preserve a kind of a knowledge around what happened.
We're learning, and part of that learning process is through visiting these sites and engaging with them and comprehending what happened to these people.
The mass grave was something that I kind of felt the most. Just the knowledge that there are thousands of people buried there, and they're not named. The abandoned hospital behind the graves. It was just like, it was a beautiful day, and there were goats playing. It was just having that visual image, but at the same time the knowledge that there are thousands of people buried there, all because of a tsunami.
We spent a lot of time with theory, we spent a lot of time talking about culture, we spent a lot of time talking about freedom, we talk about structure and agency, and to actually be kind of confronted with a situation where you're dealing with like religious structures that limit your forms of agency, they limit your ideas about yourself, but then they also offer you different possibilities as well and different ways of being in the world.
Are we like disrespecting what you guys said, right?
No, that head guy said that we could come in.
Oh, okay. Without the gear that he was going to get.
We got to get changed before you get in there.
Oh, okay.
You might have to go in and check if your dress doesn't have.
Oh, we obviously that's the meaning.
Oh, I think it's because we don't have.
I could almost role play a different role for a couple of days. I could see what it was like to be a woman in Sharia law, and in some situations that was fun, and in other situations it was really limiting.
My pants were too tight. It's alright, I look very beautiful now. It really suits me.
Do we have to wear them too?
Yeah, you know, because you men.
Is Fine allowed to put a grey robe on as well?
Yeah.
Is he allowed to put on one?
Are you sorcerers?
Yeah, she wants.
Yeah. He wants one of these.
Okay. Yeah, you want to try? Yeah.
Wait, no, we're allowed to try them.
Okay.
We got to see how the complexities of theory play out in real life and how it's not neat and it's not tidy. And you can't just make these mass generalizations about how people exist.
Being at the main mosque in Aceh the night before Ramadan was a pretty powerful experience. In a lot of ways, kind of just because of how normal it was. It was just a lot of kids running around playing with toys and blowing bubbles while parents sort of entertained them as much as they could. And then you'd get called to prayer and everyone would congregate inside and outside the mosque, and it was a remarkably subdued, spiritual kind of experience that carried quite a lot of power.
It was massive, just the scale of people praying. I've never seen that many people all in one place praying, and they were all women. I wasn't aware that they were outside the temple, outside the mosque, whereas the men might have been inside. But just seeing that many women all together in a place praying, it felt like kind of a sense of community and kind of solidarity. A lot of the time when it felt like, oh wow, look, we're looking at an example of what we might think of as inequality, is simply not understood that way.
You could quite clearly see sort of gender roles and norms being played out, different forms of work, different spaces of working in. Off the top of my head, remember in Indonesia visiting a market just before Ramadan, and you'd have mostly men selling on the benches.
I think men's work's more visible. It's more physical and visible. It almost fits a kind of a stereotype that we would assume men's work to fulfill, but we could only really skim the surface of how work might be different between men and women. And I think it's too simple to make a really strong distinction between what men and women's work is in any context.
It made me think a lot about what it means to achieve self-empowerment as a woman.
Karena kita melihat di sini banyak masyarakat yang putus sekolah. Kemudian kita melihat banyak bapak-bapak yang tidak punya penghasilan tetap karena bapak-bapaknya di sini rata-ratanya peternak sapi ya. Jadi income-nya tuh setahun sekali atau setahun 2 kali, tidak setiap hari. Dengan kemudian banyak rumah tangga yang tidak punya aset, jadi hidupnya tidak berkembang, otomatis kan tidak mampu menyekolahkan anaknya ke jenjang lebih baik ya. Paling-paling nanti tamat SMA gitu ya. Kemudian kita buat kelompok ini tujuannya adanya swadaya, ada perkumpulan, kemudian bisa jadi motivasi ya, bisa jadi bantuan dana dari kelompok, dari kebersamaan ya. Kayak tadi apa simpanan pokok, apa simpanan wajibnya. Kayak gini ya.
So she's one of their largest borrowers in the group.
Usahanya dodol.
And her home industry is dodol. Some of you know what dodol is.
Tergantung order tapi juga Kak.
So she takes daily orders. She takes daily orders for dodol.
Brown sugar.
I'm shy.
Sticky rice.
I could see the sense of accomplishment in the way that they were talking about it. I mean, even though there was a language barrier, you could just see that, like, it excited them when they were talking about it.
I can't do it. Belum bisa Bu, ajarin Bu satu biji.
Iya, jangan ketawain.
Ajarin yang sebelah sini, Bu, ajarin kan gimana ikatnya. Why did I ask? Okay, I can't remember. So she do the
Panjang ada sama.
Oh, it's the same.
Kopi biasa dong.
Being under Sharia law, there's no alcohol or film cinemas, and so coffee has kind of become the cultural mainstay. And just have streets lined with coffee shop after coffee shop.
The coffee there was so different, especially because it's made with condensed milk and it makes you feel really wired.
I really liked the condensed milk one, probably because I just have this mean sweet tooth.
The coffee on this trip was amazing. Right from the beginning in Aceh when we had the ultra strong coffee to the very end when we had these average Thailand coffees, but every coffee was amazing.
Jogja is like the student city, and you know there's so many students, and it's just a lot of fun.
We had become quite used to quite a strict culture, and so to experience something that was just purely fun and a bit ridiculous and magical all at the same time was just a relief from culture shock.
It was a total contrast. It was almost like going to do something fun and as vibrant as that in like a public space. You kind of realise that the contrast between Aceh and Jogja, the weight was lifted off your shoulders.
It was just a little bit freeing. Jogja never quite experienced the tsunami like Aceh did, and they've had their own disaster with the volcano.
Disaster can kind of facilitate opportunity. I don't think it's a bad thing to make the most of like a difficult situation. I mean, it's not like they're celebrating like the death that happened. They're like a way to experience what happened, and the local community can benefit.
I think the commodification of anything is just sort of indicative of the world that we live in. And I guess it does trivialise it to an extent. It sort of, it makes you aware of it, but then it also kind of undermines the significance of the fact that people died there.
What are we actually feeding here? What ideas are we perpetuating? Are we perpetuating these ideas of this is a place of victims, this is a place of suffering, this is a place of, you know, a disaster-prone place. We're constructing this idea of a disaster-prone place, disaster-prone people, and their whole economies center around that.
I was just following everyone, and I followed them into the bunker, and suddenly realised that they were talking about people that had died in there, and I kind of not freaked out, but I was kind of like, whoa, this got a lot more serious, and I sort of, how can I be just standing here right now in this kind of doom?
What was I actually experiencing, if I think about it? It's empathy, or am I just the vicarious consumer of pain?
It's hard to say. I guess if it is meeting a sort of a foreign demand, then it does start to feel quite uncomfortable that people might be encouraged to capitalise on trauma. Cut to me and Lucy covered in water for comic relief.
Not like I had a choice.
I just want to take them off and ring them out.
And we saw a woman doing quite a lot of very intricate, time-heavy work, and so it was quite interesting to see the amount of time and effort that went into kind of preserving cultural traditions within these relatively small villages.
New generation cannot do like this, that's why she have to do it and sell to the villager around here.
Which sort of creates an interesting dynamic between how women probably relate to their work, maintaining kind of cultural traditions while also more and more needing to be working in a more market-oriented environment.
For skirt, like that.
It's like all different layers, so she's like wrapped that round real tight to keep it all together, yeah.
The patterns are beautiful.
Yeah. They only wear it for New Year's.
And for working.
It'll be rows of them.
It's easy to disconnect between where those things have come from. To actually go and witness, just to see some of these blankets being woven, did help to kind of make the connection between what you might see in the night market in Chiang Mai and actually the person who has spent 3 or 4 weeks weaving this one blanket.
We were people who had just walked into this village in the middle of nowhere and without a lot to contribute. But at the same time, I saw the smiles on their faces and I thought they were genuine.
ซื้อหมดเลยแหละเนี่ยนี่ก็ซื้อหมดเลยไปซื้อที่จอมทอใช่
We only saw the work that women do, which is visible. But there's so much of the work that women do is hidden and invisible. It's within households, and we didn't see that. So the role that women play in childbearing, and that's huge, and we don't tend to talk about that as being work.
On one of the days in Thailand, I think a group of 5 of us went to visit the Ban Bang Kaya village, and we were fortunate enough to spend the afternoon fishing with one of the locals, and we waded through the shore, and we got to see him setting up the squid traps and catching some squid.
Tradition isn't just something that we can say, oh, look at this traditional Moklan community. There's many Moklan communities in southern Thailand, and they all have differences between them. And they're changing and shifting as the younger generation kind of grows up and merges with Thai society.
One of the things that really stands out for me on the trip is speaking to a Moklan leader in Thailand, and he was very passionate about how his people had been treated badly and very upset about the loss of his land.
The mangroves that they use for resources are being affected by, hotels that are being put up right by the waterfront.
And in particular, we saw that a Buddhist temple had been built on their original land.
ก็เพราะที่นี่เป็นที่ฝังศพของลุงบ้านลุงอยู่ที่นี่จริงๆมอร์แกนฝังถึงนู้นเลยจากนู้นฝังไว้หมดเลยบริเวณวัดนี้หมดเลยในวัดนี้ใช่ทั้งนั้นเลยก็มีการพูดคุยมีการต่อสู้กับภาครัฐด้วยเอกชนนายทุนมอร์แกนสู้ไม่ได้ก็แบกที่ให้เขาไปก็เหลืออยู่ประมาณกี่ไร่นั่นน่ะมันเหลืออย่างนั้น
How do they feel about having a big Buddhist monument right opposite their cemetery?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. แม่ของลุงอยู่ที่นี่นี่แม่ลุงฝังบริเวณนี้
His mom was buried around this area. คุณลุงคิดยังไงกับการที่วัดมาตั้งตรงนี้
Can you ask again about it?
เหนื่อยลุงไม่อยากจะพูดแล้วเหนื่อยแล้ว
Want to talk about it?
What do they think about the temple being so close to the cemetery?
อ๋อแล้วคิดว่าการที่วัดมาตั้งใกล้นี่มันมีผลอะไรไหมคะ
ผลกระทบมาก
กับ
ครั้งก่อนศพลุงอยู่ศพญาติพี่น้องลุงที่นี่คุณก็ใช้รถลุนไปกองอยู่ที่นู่นกองอยู่นู้นมันศพดีใช่ไหมเขาก็ลุนไปลุงพยายามค้านอย่างนี้ทำไม่ได้นะทำไม่ได้ไม่สนใจวูดไปอย่างเดียวชาวบ้านบางคนก็นั่งสู้ไม่ได้พอไปเสนอภาครัฐก็บอกว่าปณิปนอมง่ายๆลูกง่ายๆทีนี้ลุงเคยพาชาวต่างชาติมาหลายประเทศเข้ามาดูเขาบอกว่า
The size of their cemetery had significantly decreased, which is just insulting, it's absolutely disrespectful. They didn't have any land rights. They weren't sort of recognised as Thai citizens.
For the next tsunami, if it ever happen again, the Moklan people, they saying that, well, if it ever happen again, we want nothing but only the ID card that certify that we are a citizen of the country.
It's not like he was asking us to do anything. I guess that we were there listening. When we visited Bantapla, we got taken to a sort of traditional house that was built. That was one of the remaining structures that was there. This is a village that was actually protected by the mangroves from the tsunami.
And they had been in the process of setting up an ecotourism project within the village to bring tourists through the mangroves. So I think we were the first group of Farang to go on this mangrove tour. That was a good day.
It didn't seem like tourism to me. It didn't feel like a traditional kind of tourist activity because you were contributing to a part of their everyday life. Like, that's something that they do anyway.
Then we go in the water, and they sort of showed us how to pick with our feet, find with our feet in the sand and stuff, shellfish.
Very different experiences from village to village, and I think it just goes to show how nuanced these situations are.
I think the trip has made me aware of how complex everything is.
It showed how difficult these situations are to work in and operate in as a foreigner.
Maybe not fully engage with the culture, but at least get enough of an understanding to know that I don't know everything and know that my truth is not the only truth.
Overwhelming in the sense that how could I ever possibly make a difference?
It just told me what is the purpose, what is the significance of what you're studying to the people you're studying.
It's sort of like a window to be able to sort of see things a little bit more clearly.
It's not just about the museums and the tourist attractions, it's about like the people that live in these places.
Whether you want to be in direct contact and engaging with those people beyond the research.
You can try and find a word that describes that 6 weeks. Challenging, hot, incredible.
I definitely think it was a life-changing experience.
Like, it's changed my whole approach to how I direct my career and my life.